All right. Glad to be back in game week. I think we had a productive bye, and I think any chance to reset, recharge, to try to get a little bit healthier and kind of set our sights on the next stretch ahead. We got a 6 game run here that's going to be challenging, but a lot of fun, and starts with a great opponent in Alabama. Anytime you can welcome a number one ranked team into your home stadium. Again, you face a great challenge, but with a great challenge is a great opportunity, and a chance for us to measure ourselves against the best in the league. Have a ton of respect for Kalen DeBoer, a guy that I go back with to my South Dakota days. Has always been someone that I admired and felt like does things the right way. Obviously, an excellent football coach who has positioned his team to again to be at the top of the country. So excited for the opportunity. I know our players are excited too. I think we've been a spirited team and a competitive team. So not surprised that they're looking forward to the opportunity that awaits them week. And what my message to them has been is we can't skip any steps. So this is about getting everything we can get out of our process to best position ourselves to make the plays that we'll need to make to win a game on Saturday. And again, we're excited to be back home, refreshed from the bye, and looking forward to a great week and a great weekend. So with that, I'm happy to open up for questions.
So were you at South Dakota when he was at Sioux Falls?
I was at South Dakota State, and that was my first full-time job. So I think we're both still pretty young, if I could say that. But we were certainly young then, and Kalen had already built a great reputation as a head coach. And I used to see him at clinics, and it's been a lot of fun to follow his career because I admire the way he worked his way up through the ranks. And he was always someone that stood out as a good person first, and like a really skilled football coach. And I think he's every step along the way he's proven that both of those things to be true. And obviously, off to a great start at Alabama.
Offensively, does it look kind of the same for you going forward? Just grind out clock, let Diego make plays, or is anything you guys maybe look to do a little differently, better going forward?
Well, grinding out the clock is a part of the strategy, but so is taking shots and being an explosive offense too. For us, we're not gonna start outside of our identity. So we want to establish a physical run game, and we want to allow for Diego opportunities to create and to keep us on schedule. But again, if you look at that first drive in the Missouri game where we went, 1st and 10 to 2nd and 5, then had a procedural penalty that put us to 2nd and 10, and then a fumbled pitch that put us to 3rd and 17. That's not going to be a formula for us. I think the second drive, if I'm not mistaken, started the same 1st and 10, 2nd and 5 to a conversion, set up another conversion, and the 5th play into that drive was a long pass to Joe McVay. That's what our offense wants to be. We have capable players to stretch the field vertically. Diego has shown his ability, and I think there's even more in there in terms of targets down the field being open. And I think Tim's done a great job of designing those shots. So, want to get to those shots, and in order to get to those shots, we have to, as you say, possess the ball and accumulate snaps and stay on schedule. So that's going to start with a physical run game, and that run game is going to, again, channel through Diego.
When you're playing a quarterback like Jalen Milroe and a receiver like a Ryan Williams, what's the challenge? You've played mobile quarterbacks before, but is there anything different that Jalen Milroe might offer that maybe you don't see a lot of?
I think you have to be careful sometimes overcompensating. I think sometimes the things that you design in an effort to neutralize a really good player like Jalen, you can end up kind of deviating from kind of what your base structure or your base identity is. I think what a player like Jalen challenges you with is to be at your very best within the fundamental technical aspects and the tactical aspects of the game you want to play. And so certainly we're gonna, every time the ball's snapped, there's opportunity for an explosive play. Where he is particularly good is, listen, if you don't account for him on the bypass zone reads, he's going to pull it and out leverage and outrun the defense. I mean, he's shown that against the very best in the country. So we're certainly not immune to that. We need to know exactly where the leverage points are and how to get the ball level and force him back inside. You can't always have an extra player for the quarterback, so there is an element where you're going to need to play with great block destruction and again, minimize the run lanes that he has and give pursuit time to catch up, because you can't survive a game against these guys keeping the safety split. You're going to have to close the middle too. The other area that he'll obviously hurt you is evading pass rush, and I think he's really good with like vertical escape lanes, and it's usually not to puncture you vertically. It's once he penetrates or pierces the pocket, he has a knack for circling the defense. So if you stack the ball in those situations, if you see guys collapsing from outside in on top of the football, he's gonna circle you and make you pay, and that I mean. You saw that on Saturday night. So for us, again, this is not anything new, right? We talk about how we suffocate the ball. We talk about how we leverage the ball. We talk about how we vice the ball. You always should be working together to down the ball in space. Again, we're playing against an opponent that if we're not on top of those things that we've trained since the start of fall camp, he'll make you pay. But the kids know, the players know that, and we've talked about it. And there will be some things that we do that, within our identity that looks to limit him and his ability to be effective. But he's going to get his plays too. This isn't a game where you're going to sit there and think, we're going to not absorb yards. This comes down to explosive touchdowns and the ability to limit those and to force them to go the long, hard way. It's a really explosive offense.
I know discipline and not beating yourself have always been kind of points of emphasis as long as you've been here. On one hand, you've had one turnover all year. On the other hand, the penalties issue. How do you reconcile those things, and maybe how do you get better on the penalties going forward?
It's frustrating because I think we've been a disciplined team with respect to penalties in our past. It's always been something that we've taken pride in. Obviously, we've not always protected the ball like we have this season, and so we've spent a lot of time through the bye week talking about the need to clean up penalties. We have officials at every practice, and we've made sure that we're coaching and there's alignment within our coaching staff, what the messages are in the position rooms, and with our captains, what the messages are in the locker room about the need to play penalty free. We're going to harp on that in our process, but those problems aren't solved on game day. They're solved in creating the understanding and really coaching through some of the fundamental technical aspects. We had a few holding penalties today in one-on-ones defensively. Like, that's not okay. So we point those things out. We talk about where those issues come up, why they come up, what the player's experiencing. We try to coach them through and define the ways to be more effective within the rules of the game. And on Saturday, it's going to be about defaulting to your training, and look, we're not going to play a perfect game. And again, you're not solving those problems on Saturday by yelling and screaming. It's going to be about referring back to the messages that we carried and the way we trained in practice to redirect quickly and focus on the next snap. What we can't have are the undisciplined penalties where we're, getting called for unsportsmanlike conducts and late hits and those kind of things. That has to be eliminated. And, we're not fully supportive and aligned on the mission when we do those things, when we play that way. And so, again, I expect those to be gone. I think the normal effort penalties that show up will be there. Hopefully we've done a great job coaching and messaging and demonstrating the fundamental technical ways we can improve that. And so we see a cleaner game on Saturday.
How is your injury situation coming off the bye?
It's good, not perfect, but it's not gonna be this, kind of heading through the middle of the season. I think on the whole, we're returning to a level of health that's exciting. We'll have the full report tomorrow, but most of the guys are folded back into practice now and available, other than the long-term injury guys. No one added to that list last week, which is always a plus. And certainly again getting guys back, which will help us against a really good team.
What do you make of the way the team approached the bye and kind of your emphasis points beyond penalties throughout the week?
Really, the emphasis points was just kind of unpacking, the season to this point where we, like, I'm never going to take for granted the fact that I have a team now that loves to compete. Through 3 years, I've not always gotten in front of a group of guys where, 100% we're aligned in that respect, just that competitive mentality, that competitive mindset, and I celebrate that. I'm never going to take that for granted. But we do have a strategy here, and the players understand that strategy, and we have to play within it. And so demonstrating to them, independent of the penalties, where we can, control the game offensively, where we can create opportunities for our offense on defense by turning the ball over, where we can limit points defensively and specifically explosive touchdowns, and where we can win field position on special teams. That has to be captured in our training every day, that identity, that strategy, right? And when we play that way, we're going to have opportunities to celebrate in the locker room after the game. Why? Because we have the spirit, the competitive spirit, and the energy and the belief. And so we have to play smarter, and smart teams win. But and look, there'll be games where, it's not like we're going to line up and win every matchup. That's okay too. These guys understand that. It's a team game, 11 guys on the same page, executing the call, playing with the competitive spirit we have. We've proven the resilience to fight back and the resolve to fight back. The message during the bye week is, let's now take the next step and play a smart, clean game and play to our strategy. As far as the team's mentality in the bye, they were fantastic. I thought we had a great 3 days of work, and then we came back on Sunday after a day off Saturday, and I thought probably had our best, in-season practice this season. So it was physical, it was communicative, there was energy, it was sustained, and we were, that was a heavier load than a typical Sunday because of the bye. So it was an extra Alabama day. So these guys are excited. They're excited to play. It's fun for me to be around them because, again, they carry that energy that you want your team to have. And it's, every opportunity we get out there, we don't get back. Let's go be really proud of the way we play. And these guys have a chip on their shoulder. It's fun. It's fun to be a part of. So there's more for us out there. If we clean our game up, we play to our strategy. We're gonna have opportunities to win games, and I love the mindset of the team that way.
Ryan Williams made two pretty freakish moves on that game-winning touchdown. How do you train the defense to prepare for a guy that can throw things at you that maybe you've never seen?
It reminded me of some of the work I used to do in the flat when they would throw me the ball, Chris. He's got some of the best balance and body control and that I've seen. And again, I think when you watch him, there's a few plays that stand out in my mind where he's making plays on the ball as his body's contorting and the ball's bouncing around. One was a post in the Georgia game. One was the play on the sideline. They had another touchdown against Western Kentucky where he caught a dig late and just high pointing the ball, was able to come down and split two defenders, kind of spinning around. So those are things that, again, he's a really talented player. You look at their offensive production from the Georgia game, and it just screams at you that the game runs through number 2 and number 4. And that doesn't mean there aren't a lot of talented players on that team either, right? I mean, that's a talented roster, but certainly those two guys have proven the ability to control the game and to make you pay if you're not aware of where they are. So we have to be aware of, his opportunities to catch the deep ball. We have to play at a level of fundamental technical proficiency. In the situation where we have a post player and a man defender, we got to have two guys that can vice the ball down. I mean, I think that's I think probably the most frustrating thing about that last explosive play was just there were two guys there that need to work together to down it. And there's going to be times in this game where it's going to take two guys, and that's okay. We can do that. It's just about how we train it this week in practice. And you're never going to fully simulate that speed or, again, that catch radius or that ability, like I said, the balance and body control at the finishes. But we can show them. We can train it in individual. We can put them the best we can in a position, within the plays in practice. And then ultimately, you have to trust that they're taking the message, they're taking the understanding, and on the field they're working together. I don't want to look up on Saturday and see, situations come up where, we have one-on-one shots and there's no one in the vicinity to help. We need to make sure not only are we in dominant position on those routes, but that whoever is meant to be the second man in is both tightening the window that the quarterback has to throw the ball and helping to down the ball in situations where there's a circus catch made and the receiver stays on his feet.
More of a threat almost in the running game than some of the running backs. Is that an opportunity for the defense to, obviously load up the box, and you may give up some yards to the quarterback, but you have to make sure that these aren't long touchdowns from the quarterback, like you said?
Well, first of all, I want to be really clear that their running backs are really good too. So let me not fully take the bait there, Billy. When you have a quarterback that's as dangerous running the ball as Jalen is, you have to have calls within within the plan that are meant to take the ball out of his hands. Part of that on base downs can be a response to true read plays, right, where his read is telling him whether to give the ball or pull it. And I think a lot of times in their scheme that those things are predetermined. Honestly, they seem to set the pull up with how they block in front of them. You want to be careful not to totally abandon your structure because, again, the minute you start to overcompensate, their running back will take the ball and go ripping 22 miles an hour down the middle of the field. So it's not, you can't, what we don't want to do is play a game where we're hoping something works, right? We're going to play a structure. We're going to understand what that structure, where the weak points are, where the strengths are, and we're going to vice the ball and set the run wall outside in, meaning we have great force leverage, and then build the run wall inside out, meaning we're great in pursuit. And there are going to be times where you absorb some yards. I mean, it's like you say, an 8-yard gain, it doesn't beat you. A 12-yard gain doesn't beat you. It's the ones where you're either out of structure or you're not suffocating the ball on the perimeter. And again, I think against Milroe, that starts with, force leverage. The ones that go for touchdowns are the ones that get you beat. So, you can't design your total package around taking the ball out of his hands. What you can do is have calls within your package that do take the ball out of his hands, especially in the run game. And then in the pass game where he's, equally dangerous in escaping and finding the vertical puncture that leads to him circling the defense, I don't believe in. I mean, we can add people to the rush that are responsible for spying the quarterback. I think just to put a spy out there, is not to account for him. This is way more about, again, the fundamental technical aspects of how you vice a player, how you take space away from a player. Just dropping someone out there and telling them to spy and then yelling at him when he gets outrun isn't the secret, right? I also don't believe in just voiding rush. I don't want to see a defensive line that stops rushing and is trying to find where he's going to escape. I think this is about pocket compression. It's about understanding the nature of how he escapes. It's about trying to find the finish points on the ball, but knowing that if we give him more room, he's going to be more dangerous. And there are examples of this from the season where you see teams effectively rush. And again, when he does get a breakout, which he will, it's about how we leverage the ball down the field. And again, that means we have trust. That means we understand how the vice is set up and who's the force player and who's the inside-out, chase the cheek player. And those are the things that help you limit their ability to be explosive, and particularly explosive touchdowns. Good.
Ball boys in college football, and specifically how there'll be two ball boys from the other team on your sideline and vice versa. When you're on the sideline throughout your career, do you notice that there's two dudes with a different colored shirt on, and have you ever interacted with them, or do you notice that during a game?
You notice it, and on the whole, there's those guys are pros in the way they work. I mean, they do their job, and it's one of those things that may not always make sense, but it's just how we do business. There's been a couple times where you get a chippy ball boy that can create a little bit of angst, fortunately, the reason I got out of baseball is I couldn't hit the curveball, so this will be a swing and the miss. But no, on the whole, though, there's very few times where there's really a problem, and most times when there is, or if there has been, it resolves pretty quickly, and there's a lot of emotion on the sideline, and so it's just it's an interesting part of the game. Something that certainly you notice, but seldom something that impacts anything that goes on our sideline. You bet.
Circling back to the injury situation, what has Robert Steiner's philosophy kind of done for this team in staying this healthy up to this point?
Well, I think he's helped build a culture of toughness, first of all, where these guys, mentally and physically feel equipped for the task. The training philosophy has built a foundation on our team of strength in the right areas. There's volume training or capacity training. There's linear training, conditioning, and I believe he's done a really nice job in the summer preparing the team for a tough fall camp, sustaining that through, and then here in the season, continuing to pay attention to elements of the training that are helping our guys from mobility, flexibility, and again, strength training. I mean, to hear him talk about it, a lot of times in our conversations, I just have to nod and I mean, I like to think that I know a little bit about training, but I mean, his understanding of what the muscles need, what the tendons need, and I know this firsthand because I train with him 3 days a week. I mean, I'm there with him Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning, and he, even an old guy like me, he's teaching me different, modalities to stay healthy. And for me personally, I feel as good as I've ever felt, and I can run around on the field for practice. I can, sustain energy through the day, and a lot of that has to do with how he helps me both from a mobility, flexibility, and strength training. So it's the same for our team. And I can't say enough about him, the attitude he's brought, how aligned that room is with the program we're building and the mission we're on, and then the results physically that we see from the team. And I get excited to think about, again, what January will look like here the second time through.
Anything else? Which players on the team have shown really good significant improvement so far this season? And how are you going to keep supporting their growth, especially against a tough Alabama team?
Well, short of, naming, a bunch of guys, I think we've had players that have, in a number of ways, and I think a lot of our young players are showing improvement. I mean, I was watching Jalen Lackey today, and he flashed as someone who is really starting to step into a maturity in his game. So much of improving through the season is mental, because the season's a grind. So it's easy to start being discouraged if maybe the snap count's not there, or worrying about, the day in, day out performance elements. I think it takes a really tough person just to have your head down and keep focusing on the work that needs to be done. And Jalen would be an example of that for us. Bryson Coleman's another guy. Obviously, Joe McVay, who had the big catch, he's another guy to me that has stood out as someone who has just grown both off the field and on the field through the process. So there are a lot of guys, and obviously for our program to be successful, we need to look at our roster and say our roster is improving. East is a guy that stands out that I feel like is playing his best football. And it's really cool to see that, because here he is 3 years in, and it's you're seeing the investment that was made in him and his physical tools taken over. So as far as helping sustain, we just continue to coach. I mean, we don't deviate from our process. We keep a focus on the fundamental technical aspects of the game that we need to shore up. In fall camp, we weren't training for Virginia Tech or for Alcorn State or for Georgia State. We're training to be at our best so that we can compete against the best. And we wanted to be ready for each of those games, and to varying levels we were or weren't. But the focus continues to be on how we get the very most out of our roster, fundamentally, technically, and then in terms of the tactical understanding that allows us to compete on a field against the country's best, because that's what the SEC is all about.